Well, everybody, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Film Directing with Matt Macedo. I'm your host. You know my name. And then today I have a very special guest, Greg, if you would love to introduce yourself and let everybody know who you are and what you do.
Sure. My name is Gregg Sargeant. I'm a stunt coordinator, stunt designer, action director. I have over 2 decades doing that. And I've made some of the biggest movies and TV shows in the world, and I've made some of the smallest in the world too. But I've been fortunate to work with a lot of great actors and make a lot of great projects. And it's always fantastic to working with up and coming people as well. So happy to be here.
Yeah. And we're gonna definitely pick your brain on a lot of, interesting topics and questions that we could talk about. And I have your IMDb open here, and I'm just gonna run off some names that, people will definitely recognize and they were
Oh
projects
boy.
that you were part of. And I mean, feel free to interrupt me, and if you have an idea or fun memory that comes up when I'm reading it, and would love to know. So, going all the way back to 1989, Field of Dreams.
Oh my God. Oh,
You
you're
know,
dating me.
yeah, well, sorry. We got Total Recall, we have Hook, we have MacGyver, Lost Treasure of Atlantis, Zero Tolerance. We have Batman and Robin, Alien Resurrection, Godzilla. You just mentioned Star Trek Enterprise that you were a part of, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, The Haunted Mansion. That's the one with Eddie Murphy back in '03. And then we have War of the Worlds, which that one's got to be interesting. I'm sure there's some fun stories about that one. Um, we have The Shield, Disturbia, which is fun. You have two Pirates of the Caribbean films. So Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End and Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides. Rush Hour, which was a TV series in 2016.
Yes, yes.
13 Reasons Why, NCIS. I mean, honestly, the list just goes on and on and on. And then I know that you say, it's not just stunts that you work in. You're also like second unit action director
Well,
and all that kind of stuff.
guys, when you get to being around as long as I have, you become like Michael Bay. I consider myself a director now. I always say an action director because we direct action, but I have my own production company as well, and I've produced in Australia and different parts of the world. Uh, TV movies as well as TV. So I'm a director and stunt coordinator, and that's always exciting I really enjoy directing projects, because we have a different vision, different way of looking at things when we direct a project because you've been in front of the camera, you've been behind the camera, and all facets. And actually, when I started out in the business, I never intended to be a stunt performer. I was studying acting. And I was going, oh man, I'm going to do this acting thing. I'm going to become a big actor. You know, and, I started getting some guest stars and things here and there on TV. And then it was just an opportunity that happened. I was actually an extra on a movie. And it was during the old Miami Vice days. And I was kind of dressed like Don Johnson, had the clothes on and everything. And I was sitting at the end of a bar. I was just an extra on the thing. And when some guy came over to me and said, "Hey, there's going to be it was a nightclub scene. There's going to be a fight break out in here. And this guy is going to get in a fight and then he's going to run out." And I just happened to be sitting by the door. And he said, "When he runs out, can you stand up and he'll shove you and just fall on that table?" And I said, "Yeah, sure, I could do that. They paid you $30 a day, and you got a brown paper sack lunch and a bologna sandwich and a cookie." And I was so psyched, man, because I was working on a movie, you know? So
Yeah.
I said, yeah, I could do it. So fight broke out, boom, boom, boom. And little unbeknownst to me, it was Bruce Willis. The guy comes running out, shoves me. I fell on the table, and they go, "Okay, we got that shot." The guy came over to me and he goes, "Hey, give the kid $50." And I went, "Wow, $50? I'm making $80 for the day." I was like, "Oh my God." From that day forward, I got on every extra job I could get on, and I would go on the studio a lot and find the stunt performers.
Mm.
And I would say, "Hey, I'm going to be a stunt guy." And then, of course, they're all doing what we do now. It's like, "Nah, you're not going to do this, kid. Get lost." And I did that for 2 years.
Mm.
And 2 years later, they started to know my name. They'd see me coming and they go, oh God, here this guy comes again, man. Like, and then one of those guys, and back in those days, they were all cowboys,
Mm.
and the one guy says, this kid ain't never going to go away, man. He says, so come out to my house in Santa Clarita this weekend. We're having a tryout. And long story short, I went out there and they were doing some stuff and being thrown through the air and falls and whatnot. And I was just watching. And he said, oh, you can do that, right? I had never done it in my life.
Mm.
And I said, oh, yeah, yeah, I could do that. So I just got in line with the guys and did what they did. And they had a machine there that threw you through the air, like for explosions,
Mm.
the simulate explosions. So I just did what they did. And it threw me so far, I missed the pad on the ground and rolled into the dirt.
Mm.
And I got up and the guy came over to me and he looked at me. I flew so far and he just said, I think I got a job for you. And that was my
Wow.
first job.
Wow.
And that's how I got started.
I mean, that's a classic Hollywood story and what it means of someone who is successful long term because you had that persistence, that rejection that hits everybody, but that fact that you kept going back and you made the name for yourself by just showing up, that's something that I think is missing a lot of people today that kind of expect, some very quick validation for success, and they just have to be, yeah, that persistence that's there is key.
Well, as you know, and you're a young guy, this is a lot of young people. It's hard. It's a brutal business. And
Yeah.
the hardest thing I always say in this business for young people is to stay motivated.
Mhm.
If you can stay motivated and you believe in what you're doing and surround yourself with great people, you can do it. You
Mhm.
you can break through. So that's the hardest thing. They always think, oh, connections or where can I do this or training or what. I go, the hardest thing you're going to do is stay motivated, no
Yeah.
matter what aspect of movies and TV you're trying to get into. If you're a director, lighting guy, actor, whatever it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so, man, yeah, so I'm very curious as to, your journey. So that's a great, lesson on how you even got into it. And, so what was like the first day, that was just like an oh shit moment for you, but you again, persisted, you made it through.
Yeah. Well, this guy, my first job was he put me on this movie.
Mm.
And I was doubling one of the leads who was a kid. It was a comedy. John Leguizamo was in it. It was a comedy, and this kid was they were being hunted. It was a comedy by this rich guy who wanted sports, so he hunted people in the woods. And all kinds of weird stuff happened to this kid. He got hit by a tree and flew through the air and went into a lake and did all these. So I had to do all these things. Well, I was getting an education really fast.
Mhm.
And then from that day on till today, you're always training.
Mhm.
You never stop training or you brush up on what you're doing. For me now, you become, hopefully, if you're successful, they have two sayings. They say, look, you're always training. And the other thing is, if after 15 years you're still walking, you did something right.
Mhm.
Okay. And I'm still walking. So I must have done something right. But what I did do in the beginning, when I started, because it was so hard for me, I said, as far as stunts and people having aspirations to become a stunt man or a stunt woman, I said, if I ever make it, I'm going to start a training facility of my own so that young people can come in and try to do this. And we do have a school now. We have a school called Stunt University. And we've had people come from all over the world and go through our course. It's strictly for beginners. Not that I'm trying to pump my course.
No,
Uh,
that's great. Yeah. I had a question about it.
it's strictly for beginners. They come out, they do an 8-day beginner course. We've got one coming up in November. And then what they learn in that day is they learn fights, falls, working on wires, fire, all kinds of stuff. And the best thing about it is I myself will go in and personally instruct.
Hmm.
So everybody who works with me as an instructor are the actual guys that can hire them. So, and I spoke about this a little bit at the panel because I know in verticals, everything's non-union just about,
Hmm.
so, and it's been a problem for them. And I did a few of these for Drama Box and some other people I've worked for. And they're always like, oh, we didn't, we don't have the money.
Hmm.
And which nobody ever says they have money. Pirates of the Caribbean, the first one I did was $350 million. And they said, we don't have any money.
Yeah, wild.
Uh, so nobody ever says they have money.
Yeah.
But we tried to make it cheap enough for them so they can come in that 8 days, they can get exposed. And I mentioned at the panel that, so what I did to solve that problem with verticals, I said, look, we have created a non-union team that they train with us and they can do the things we do and they're supervised by us because if they come out, I would come out as their coordinator.
Hmm.
So now you don't have to worry about that. You can't afford us because you can afford us, you know.
Hmm.
And so I say the biggest mistake people make is not calling us and not just talking to us about their project. Doesn't
Hmm.
cost you anything to call us, talk about it, your project, And I'm the same guy whether it's Steven Spielberg or it's you.
Hmm.
My knowledge and what I'm going to bring to your project is the same thing.
Yeah.
So I always encourage people, look, if you have questions or whatnot, or you want to get a hold of us, or you want to kick an idea around, you want to try to do something in your project, just call us. You
Hmm.
know, we're
Yeah.
happy to talk to you.
And I do have a question in terms of your courses and stuff. So, I'm assuming, obviously got to be healthy, you got to get in, you got to be, you know, physically able to go through the demands of what stunts require. But I'm
Sure.
sure like you have to you're open to any kind of age, any kind of body shape, anybody that could come into to stunts because I'm sure you need all different shapes and sizes for, and ages for people
Yes.
and yeah, all sorts
Yes.
of fight sequences.
We don't take anybody under 18, just for legal purposes.
Sure.
And I would like to, but because we get a lot of emails and stuff from people that parents that have. My son wants to do it. He's like 16 and he's in martial arts, and I go, nah, they got to be 18.
Yeah.
Um, but we don't discriminate against anybody. Um, I had a girl. This is really interesting. I had a girl, or I should say, a young woman that came out. I think she was about 23 years old, and she registered for the course. And on our website for the course, it says, do you have any medical problems or, your age or some just general information
Mhm.
before we just, accept somebody. And she said, no, 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 no problem. And then she came out with the group and first day, and we're talking, and she pulled me aside and she said, hey, I have to be honest with you. I didn't want to say because I knew you wouldn't accept me. And I was like, what? And
Mhm.
she said, I'm blind in one eye.
Mhm.
And I was like, oh, well, this could be a problem. And she
Sure.
said to me, but I really want to do this and I'd like to try. So that's why I didn't say anything. And she was physically fine, it's just she was blind in one eye. So I said to her, all right, well, we'll give you a shot. Let's see what you do. And she went through that entire course. She did everything. She did the high falls. She did everything, the wire work, fights, everything. She was phenomenal,
Mhm.
and she graduated with a certificate, you know.
Yeah.
So we don't discriminate against anybody. The only thing we do is this, like, we ask, if you have some kind of a real problem, just tell us. So,
Sure. Well,
because
I would
we've
just
had,
even imagine, some frail, like 80-year-old woman, that could take your course and
yeah.
just, you know, just kick some ass in some film, or at least pull it off, that can, because I'm sure like if there's a need out there, someone needs to fill that demand. So,
And it's really surprising some of the people that show up. You
mhm.
never know. I had this kid show up, scrawny little thing, and he was probably, about 5'8", and the guy couldn't have weighed more than 110 pounds, and you took one look at him and you think, oh. this guy ain't gonna do well. And man, did he kick butt in that course.
Yeah, cool.
And being the way he was, he became actually a specialty.
Mm.
People would hire him because of his he was so frail and looking,
Yeah,
but
exactly.
boy,
Yeah.
he could kick butt in the fights and did he did great, man.
Well, that's awesome. See, I want to encourage someone that I got into the world of verticals as a intimacy coordinator. And
Huh?
so she's already, intimacy coordinating and can just she used to own a gym and she's like around I don't want to give her age out, but around retirement age. So she's settling down, but she loves, you know, health as a lifestyle and fitness as a lifestyle. And so I'm like you got to get into stunts. And so I would love to recommend her obviously to your course. And so like what would be like the
Sure.
length of time for a course, and then you're certified afterwards, of course, as a non-union stunt performer,
Right.
or
Well, we're doing for the first time coming up in November. Uh, we're going to allow everyone who takes that course to audition to become part of the non-union team,
mm, cool.
so that we can add more people, more types.
Hmm.
And we haven't done that. This is the first one we'll do that, and this one's going to be a 6 day. Um, and we haven't even really. We'll probably release it today for people to go in and register for it.
Hmm.
Uh, and like I said, it's 6 days, and they'll do fights, falls, wire work,
Nice.
and then there's some. We do some acting, teach them some acting stuff for stunt people because I was a former actor. I know how to work with actors. I actually established. I when we lived in Australia for 3 years because I wrote, produced, and directed a TV series there. And during that time, I opened an acting school in Australia. And the reason for that was that at that time in Australia, there weren't a lot of acting schools, and everybody wanted to learn in Australia how to do an American accent
Mm,
because that was a
interesting.
big thing, you know. And we go there, we don't think we have an accent, but to them, we have
Sure.
an accent, obviously.
Yeah.
So yeah, well, every our course is strictly built around beginners, you know. But we have some, people come that have abilities, like they might be a martial artist, you might be, they have certain abilities. So it's good for everybody. I mean, I've had people come out of the course that, I had the one guy came to me, signed up for the course, showed up on the day, and big guy. And at first, I almost didn't take him because we have him send in a picture, just a shot of them, a selfie or something before they take the course. And this guy looked so mean.
Mm,
He had the full beard. He just looked like a biker. I was like, oh boy, I don't know about this guy, man. Like, because I'm responsible for everybody there.
sure.
And he showed up. He was the nicest guy, and he was very quiet. And I was like, so I'm talking to him, and it came out that he says to me, "I'm a former Navy SEAL,"
Mhm.
and I went, "Oh boy." And he was a big, tall guy. So I'm looking up at him, and I said, "Look, you know how to really kill people." I said, "I have to teach you how to look like
How
you're
to
killing
not?
people and
Yeah.
not hurt anybody." And he just said, "Oh, okay." But they surprise you. And that guy went on to, by the way, he took our course and he went on and got in touch with. We teach him how to hustle for jobs and stuff. He hustled the show Navy SEALs. They
Mm,
hired him on the spot.
yeah, absolutely. You'd think.
Yeah. And with his training, he did the rest of the time that show was on. And
Wow.
he got hired to write some episodes because he was a real SEAL. And
Wow.
he got an associate producer credit. And he literally didn't know how to even contact any or anything about stunts, came out of our course and did that.
Yeah. Wow.
But he was a Navy SEAL.
Yeah.
So you get all kinds of things. I've had people come out. We had Cirque du Soleil come out and they had us train their people,
Mm,
to do fall into airbags and do stuff. I've had people come from Paris, Japan, Germany, Australia. It's like, and it's I enjoy the training.
sure.
I enjoy lifting those people up, and,
Hmm.
and getting them learning to do things that they didn't think they could do.
Sure.
Uh,
And so, I mean, in this world of verticals that we're in, or that I'm in, I should say, because you obviously you're outside of it too. Um, I mean, it's so simple, like I know you have some possibilities to bring some more creative design of stunts and all that
Yes,
into the vertical world.
yes.
But, all I've done, unfortunately, is just very, very basic stuff. And so I'm sure we'll talk about the basic stuff, but I would love to know what's like the most complicated stunt that you have like ever worked on.
Well, a lot of people think the big stunts, uh,
Sure.
there's so much that goes into the big stunts. When you're, dropping off of buildings, jumping out of helicopters, stuff like that, they're planned and over planned and replanned. And we always say it's the smaller ones that'll get you,
Mm.
because people that, they start to think like, yeah, it's easy, we'll just, you're getting hit by a car, you know how to get hit by a car. It's not that big a deal. You know how to do it.
But a
That's,
slap between beginning actors
yeah.
can lead to a broken nose, can lead
Yeah.
to
I
all
come
sorts of
on to
things.
verticals a lot of time. They're like, well, the actors are going to do everything. And they'll call you on the day.
Yeah.
I always say, look, depending on what's in your script, if we're going to elevate this thing,
Mhm.
you know, why don't you plan when you do this, say, just have one day, and we can either come to your location, wherever it may be, or we can have them come out to our location, Topanga Canyon, and we just work with them for an afternoon on fights. And, maybe you got to get knocked down, maybe somebody has to get flipped because, the actors can only do so much.
Mhm.
Or we have to cheat it for your production, and we can do that too. We know how to work cameras, we know how to work frames, we know how to work people, and we know how to work action. Okay, so, but the bad thing is you're cheating, it's going to cheapen
Yeah.
what you're doing. I was just doing a drama box thing where the lead guy was in a high school, and he gets in a fight with this kid, and the kid was coming down the stairs, and he makes some smart remark, and he just punches him.
Mm.
And so he punched him, and then, I let them do it. They're like, oh, let us just do the run through. And I hadn't even talked to him yet. They did it. It looked terrible. So I said, look, if you're going to hit the guy, you got to keep him in the frame. And then as they hit him, I go, because we can't let him fall down the stairs, we'll have him drop, and you can go move over. There's a railing there. We'll have him drop to the railing.
Mhm.
That'll give you a cutaway point, and then you can cut away to the star. Okay. And then this guy you can cut back to him from the other angle coming down the steps, and then we can continue the fight there instead
Mhm.
of trying to throw him down the stairs. So
Yeah.
there's a way we can really do these action scenes and pretty much do anything you want to do. We just have to plan them. We sit down with you guys in production, and we say, okay, let's figure out what you want to do, and let's elevate it.
Mhm.
And we all work together, and we can make it happen. There's no reason they can't be doing this stuff. Um, they just have been coming from a expense mind instead of the production,
Yeah, definitely.
focusing on the quality of the production. So
And
if I can
it's just
eliminate your problem with the expense,
mhm.
you don't have any more excuse. Okay.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, hopefully we get to, just to use the example that you were talking about with the stairs, like hopefully we get to a point with these verticals, to where we have, the budget to be able to bring on someone in stunts that could actually
At least for
fall
your
down the
if you
stairs.
have
Yeah,
two leads, it would be nice to bring in, depending on what the script is.
sure.
If you have a girl that gets shoved down the stairs, well, let's bring a stunt double for her.
Yeah, yeah.
And
And then sometimes, the absurdity of these verticals, sometimes a rag doll, falling down the stairs would sometimes work, sometimes wouldn't, depending on it works if it's a comedy, if
yeah,
it's just if it emphasizes that. So, I mean, that would be
absolutely.
a great question to ask you for, stunts in terms of like because it's the same thing, stunts, fighting sequence, but the language itself, I'm sure, is different when it's like a drama or a horror versus when it's a comedy.
Yeah, oh,
So,
absolutely. And because comedy is always bigger, you
mm,
know, it's always
more
excessively
exaggerated and yeah.
exaggerated. Yeah, so you can get away with some things there. Uh, but you still have to choreograph things safely. So, but when they become even bigger, that's when you really need a stunt person because you do want it bigger. I did a documentary. It was really interesting, called The Jewel Thief.
Mm.
Uh, based, it was a true story about this guy that robbed banks, a very nerdy looking guy that robbed banks. And we had a scene in that where the guy he got arrested and he was in the back of a police car. And the cop drives into the police station into the garage with him, and he gets out of the car and he leaves the guy in the car, and he goes out in the front of the cop car and he's looking at something on his booking book or something, and the guy in the back seat gets in the front seat of the cop car. He's handcuffed. He gets in the front seat of the cop car. So we had to coordinate all this.
Mhm.
And then the the keys were still in the car. He starts the car and he runs into the cop and takes off out of the place.
Mm.
Well, the cop guy got hit by the car and had to go flying. And so I convinced them. They go, well, no, let's get a dummy, and and I go, it's going to look really bad,
Mm.
So what we did was I got a stunt double for the cop. We brought him in one day, and I had him take the hit from the car, and then we did get a dummy. We got an articulated, real looking dummy, and we hung it by a wire. And then we did another take where the car just really fast just blasted into him,
Mm.
and the dummy went flying. And as the dummy went flying, then they cut to the stunt double rolling off the hood and hitting the ground. And it looked so good in the documentary. People thought, "Oh my
Mm.
God, that guy got killed."
Yeah. Wow.
But just having that double in there for, I think he was there that night for, we was there 6 hours, and
Mm.
we had
Yeah.
it. So it's just a matter of jockeying and doing things the way you can do them the best,
Yeah. And it
to
raises the
make
production value.
and to show you how simple the simple things make the difference, but they didn't understand or they didn't
Mm.
think of it. Well, when the guy got hit by the car, he went back onto the street, and then the guy ran over him. So
Mm.
when he ran over him, when they put the actor in the car then, and they just had him drive out of frame. And I go, wait a minute. He's run over a guy. Shouldn't there be a bump?
Hilarious. See, that's where your directing, mindset
Yeah,
comes in too, to be able to share that. Yeah.
yeah. And they were smart enough to let me direct, because I said I could have just stood back and said, "Hey, that's what you want to do," but
Sure.
I won't do that. So because it's my reputation too.
Yeah.
So I said, "Look, let's get a couple of guys, bring some sandbags over here, put them in front of the wheels, and then as he goes over, now shoot him, and there'll be a bump in the car." And that's all it took. It looked so real. And then I had the actor,
Mm.
get up from the ground in the back with his shirt all toned up with his microphone and walk out of the frame. It
Yeah.
looked amazing,
Yeah.
you
Great.
know.
That's
So it's
hilarious.
things like that. It's just having knowledge of things that you've done for years, and there
Yeah.
are little tricks and things you'll learn if you shoot with me that people. I told a couple of people some tricks at the panel, and they were like, "I'm going to remember that."
Yeah. Just a whole toolbox of just years of collecting.
Yeah, and look, my job's there to, whether it's vertical, a regular short, or feature film, whatever it is to elevate what you're doing.
Mhm.
Because you say, in your mind, you're the writer, you're the director, whatever it is. You're like, oh man, I have this vision. It's going to be this great thing. And I listen to you and go like, yeah, that's amazing, man. Yeah, like, but how about if we had this?
Mhm.
It doesn't cost you any more money, and it'll look like this,
Yeah. And it
and
takes
then
a good director to just be open to that
yeah.
feedback and allow that to happen. Yeah, not
Well,
thinking
you
that you have the
hire
best idea.
you look, you're a director. I've been a director. You know, you hire great actors, let them act.
Mhm.
You hire people and you surround yourself with great people, let them do what they do, and then just you're there to just kind of, tweak it, mold them, unless they're absolutely, they're not getting it.
Hmm.
But usually, if you hire the right people and they know what they're doing, they just want to make you better. I mean, it's really important to let people collaborate, for me anyways, because that way, look, if I make you look great, you get to take all the credit, you know.
Right. Yeah.
And if a film's great, the director gets credit. If it turns out bad, everybody else gets blamed.
Somewhat true. Yeah.
And then there's things that happen. And no matter if you're a big director or just starting out as a director, like I was doing War of the Worlds with Tom Cruise, and there's a pivotal scene in that movie. I don't know if you saw the movie, but
Yeah.
where Dakota Fanning gets sucked up into the monsters, invading the earth into that cage
Hmm.
that was eating the people. I was the guy that ended up getting eaten in the cage and sucked up
Oh, wow.
into the
Nice.
monster. Okay,
Nice.
and it's a pivotal scene in the movie.
Yeah.
And so in the scene, Tom gets himself sucked up so that he can try to save his daughter, Dakota Fanning.
Mm.
And he sees her there, and then he's like, "Oh my God!" He goes over to her, and as he does, the thing opens up and comes down to grab me.
Mm.
Well, I had to run to the side of the cage and hold on to it. And there's a shot on actually there's a picture of it on IMDb of me, Tom, and Steven Spielberg together figuring it out. And I said to Spielberg, I said, when I get to the side of the cage, because they had a camera booming up to the cage,
Mm.
I said, I'm going to hold on as long as I can, because they had a cable rigged to my leg, which was on
I'm just pulling down.
pressurized to pull me up out of that thing
Hmm.
on a stage. It's going to pull me about 70 feet into the air.
Mm.
And I said, "Hey, Steven, is it okay? Can I hold there as long as, till I feel the camera on me?"
Mm.
He said, "Oh yeah, 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 do that. That'll be great." I was just trying to get my close up.
For sure. Yeah. Smart.
So he said, "Yeah, do that." And then when Tom falls down, you come over. So I did it, and I'm holding on to that thing, man, and I feel the camera come up right in my face, and I go, "Okay, cool." And then I let go, and
Mm.
it pulled me, whoop, threw me across and inside that cage were a bunch of other stunt people, threw me across the cage and flipped me up through the thing. But that piece of communication with him, it
Hmm.
became a pivotal moment in the film because I gave him that.
Yeah.
It wasn't just my close up. I said, "I'm going to be there and be the guy struggling. Oh my God,"
Hmm.
and it had me by the leg. So here's Steven Spielberg, and he was open to the
Yeah.
collaboration. So
Absolutely.
everybody should be open to that.
Yeah. Absolutely. Great story. Great, great story. And so, you mentioned it earlier about how you've worked on, like $300 million budgets, and then you got a vertical, which is like half of a million, you know what I mean? Even less than that, a quarter of it, even less.
Yeah.
And so like, what are the similarities between the two? Because I'm sure, you did with both same thing,
Yep.
same things on both. Um, I mean, because obviously I think the differences would be pretty obvious, but I would love to know the similarities and sure differences while you're at it.
Yeah, I always tell people, especially now on verticals, I go, "Look, you bring me out, you get me a script in advance if I can. We're trying to change this thing of just calling up and like you're a plumber, you're a day player, and you go, "Oh, we just got some actors. You're gonna just can
Yeah.
you come out Tuesday or tomorrow or right now?" I'm like,
Yeah.
how do I plan that?
Yeah.
I got to do I need to bring pads? Do I need to bring what? Do we need wire work? Do I need a rigger? What are we doing? But I have to do the same thing I would do for any other movie or TV show. Just because it's a vertical, it doesn't really change much. All it changes is how we shoot it,
Hmm.
and how we frame it and how we compress those people in there. And there's a variety of ways to do that. You can do long lens, you can make a longer shot, get more in it, depending if you're dealing with cars and stuff, right? Or you can do it in cuts. But there's not a lot of difference,
Yeah. Yeah.
depends what you're trying to do and what you're trying to accomplish.
Now I'm really curious that your first experience with a vertical. Like, did they tell you it was vertical before you came, or did you see the monitor and then you're like, oh,
Um,
like what is this?
well, actually, it was my first experience with verticals was Drama Box, and then they kept calling back. And what my biggest surprise was, I went out, was their just sheer total assumption that we're just going to have this fight with the actors and just while we're on lunch, just show them how to. I was like, what?
Hmm.
Like we're just like, you think this stuff just instantaneously happens? Like I go, it can, but it's going to look really bad.
Yeah.
The first one I was on, they just had this girl that a big guy is supposed to be his daughter, and he just slaps her across the face. And people think, oh, they think, right? Simple. He just slaps her across the face. Like, but one of the biggest things you learn and hardest things done in stunts, and you're always perfecting it throughout your career, is fighting.
Hmm.
A fight and because it's all about reactions. So if I do a great fight, and we'll have to have you out to Stunt University just to show you some stuff.
Yeah.
We'll get you on some wires, we'll have you jump in a bag, we'll fight you,
Love it. Love
all
it.
that stuff. Uh, if I throw a great punch at you and you do a terrible reaction, it's terrible.
Hmm.
So I always tell people when we're teaching them, it's like a dance. Uh, you know, and in fights, somebody gives, somebody receives.
Hmm.
You know, and if you're not both working in the dance, it looks bad. Um, so one guy has to throw the punch properly, and the other person has to react properly. They got to be real teaching how to snap that head. And we always say in the beginning, look, you should be able, if you're taking a good hit to the face, that's why you see stunt guys wear baseball caps. You should be able to knock your own baseball cap off, snapping your head. I'm going to tell you a trick now. I never
Uh-oh.
give.
Oh no. Exclusive right here.
I was on this film. It was a film I was shooting in Australia, and I'll tell you a little. I won't get into it too much because I don't want to bore you. But it was a $50,000 budget,
Hmm.
and it was a good friend of mine who was the 9 times Australian martial arts champion in Australia making it, and he was starring in it. And he called me up and said, "Would you come make this film with us?" And I said, "Yeah, I'll come." So I flew over to Australia. There's a pivotal scene in the end of the film, and these guys are real martial artists, where they're fighting the big end battle, and he says, "I'm going to throw a big roundhouse kick and hit him in the face," and then we had a blood cap in his mouth, and he's going to knock it out, the traditional, shot.
That's yeah.
And he goes, "Oh yeah, I'll just, we're both martial artists. I'll just kick him." And I'm like, "No, no, you're not going to just kick him, man." And I turned to him and I said, they had their sweats on, martial arts gear. And I said, "Take your pants off." And he said, "What?" And I said, "Take your pants off." And he took his sweats off and he gave them to me. And I said, "And what foot are you going to kick him with?" And he said, "My right foot." I could take your shoe off. And he said, "Okay." And I took his sweats and I put them on my arm, and I put his shoe on my hand.
Hmm.
And I just framed them like that. And
Yeah.
I had the guy there, and all we did was hit him in the face with my arm, and we put water on him, and he hit the blood capsule.
Yeah. Brilliant.
And they sped that up. It looked so brutal.
Yeah. See, just a simple fix. I love it.
I did that, and they were just in shock. They were like, "What?" I go look at the playback.
Yeah. Yeah. That's hilarious. Oh,
So there
cool.
are things that are in here
Yeah.
that, you go, "Oh, I don't know how to do this. We're having a problem." And I go, "I know how to do it."
Mm.
And that didn't cost him any more money. Didn't cost, it's
No,
like
nothing.
it
Yeah.
just made it look great.
Yeah. 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 Just
And they
good
didn't
old
even
practical
like, I was
filmmaking.
like, "Wait, you got to wet him down, man. Let's see that water." He's
And then you're able to,
sweating.
yeah, you're able to do it more than once safely, as many times as you want. No, that's
Yeah, the
perfect.
idea is not to beat everybody up and kill them. It's like,
For sure. Yeah, definitely don't want to do that. So, yeah, so getting,
oh, by the way, that film,
mm,
okay, that we made for $50,000 for all your young filmmakers out there and all your or anybody who's making a film and says, well, we don't have a lot of money. That film, it was not a great script. In fact, it was a terrible script. But they made it. We got it made, and they took that to Cannes to
wow.
sell it to the Cannes market to sell territories.
Oh,
Uh, and it was on the level of like 2 in the morning when you see the Latin films, the Mexican films, so they're really bad.
sure. Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
it was a little above that level, okay, but it had a story.
Good.
And
Yeah.
they said, we're going to Cannes to sell it. And I said, have you ever been to Cannes? And they said, no. I go, do you have a distribution deal, chart for selling it? And they said, no, we don't have that. I was like, oh my God. They didn't even have a distribute how to sell it,
Sure.
you know. So I wrote their distribution deal and I wrote up every country how much to charge them.
Mm,
One country would be $50,000, one would be 10, you know.
sure.
And I said, and just go see what you can do. They sold every territory that movie
Wow.
on a
Wow.
$50,000 budget. They made $1.3 million on a $50,000 film.
Damn.
And they didn't know what they were doing. I was just laughing, but and
Wow.
I even played a character in the film who because they needed an American guy. Uh, I played some character called Cash who beat him up in the movie,
Oh, wow.
you know, and did the old classic, got thrown down the middle of the bar with all the
Sure. Sure.
glasses and all that.
Yeah.
I directed it and did the gag
Oh, wow. Oh, that's
because
interesting.
I was the only guy with an American accent.
Sure. 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 Yeah.
But
I
it
mean,
just
yeah.
goes to show you what you can do on a little money,
Yeah.
you
I
know.
mean, any completed film is a miracle, but just to have that sort of success too and just selling it too, yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, hey, look, with these iPhones now,
Mm,
people can go out and look. If that's how you can make an incredible movie with an iPhone.
true.
As long as you've got good post,
Mm,
and a good editor. You've got like our production company. We have an award-winning composer. We've got great editors. We've got one of my partners was like the head of editing on NCIS Los Angeles for 11 years. I mean, we've got some great people. Um, so we've got a good team, but yeah, that's what it takes. It takes a
mhm.
great team, no
Yeah.
matter what you're doing. You want a great lighting guy. You want great actors. You want a great director. You want a great script. You know,
Yeah. And
uh,
speaking of great directors, so I mean, you just mentioned working, of course, with like Steven Spielberg and many others too. So like and you've worked with beginning directors, I'm sure.
yeah, yeah.
So what are some traits, obviously like my main demographic with this show is fellow directors. So any tips and tricks, of just what you would share with a director on how they could come and talk to you, share their vision, their tone of what they want, even just good like traits of a director. I know collaboration is one that we talked about, but just, things that you look for in a director that, will elevate, everyone's experience.
Yeah, I look, we're there to be your partner and to help you create your vision.
Mm,
And then my job is to exceed your expectations. Okay. That's my job. Okay. If I'm directing, I love to work with everybody. I love to collaborate with everybody. I want to hear what you have to say. We might not use what you say. We not we might use what you say.
mm,
And if you come up with something great, look, if you're directing, listen to the people you hired. You hired them for a reason, because if you come up with something great, trust me, I'm going to take credit for it. I'm going, yeah, that was my idea,
yeah.
but yeah, directing is a collaborative art, and the smart ones, they really listen. And sometimes departments have problems, you know, If you're producing, basically all you're doing is putting out fires. But you got to listen to those people and take care of those problems. A director, I get it. He's got a lot going on. He's got that vision in his head. Hopefully you have great storyboards and you know where you're taking the ship, you know.
Yeah.
And if you're having a problem like that, there are certain key people in your if you're a smart director, there are key people in your crew that are your allies, and especially stunts and your DP, your writer, your lighting guy, and that you should be comfortable enough. You hired them because if you're having a problem or you're not seeing something you're not seeing, you can come to them and say, "Hey, what do you think? This isn't exactly how I visioned it," and we can make those adjustments for you and say, "Okay, hey, let's do this and make it the way you want it." I had a guy directing, very inexperienced, and he wanted to do this shot. It was a boom down shot of a motorcycle arriving. Very inexperienced, and he wasn't the nicest guy. He was Dutch. He was a Dutch guy, and it was because he just didn't have any experience. But he put the money up for the film, so he was going to direct it. And this is how silly him directing it was. He says to me, well, in his Dutch accent, he says, "I'm going to direct the film." And I said, "Oh, okay, great." I said, well, what have you directed? And he said, "Nothing." And I said, well,
Hilarious. Yeah.
I'm hired. And I'm in the meeting with him, and I'm saying to him, well, how are you going to direct it if you've never directed anything? He says, "I have seen a lot of NYPD Blue."
Hilarious.
No kidding. And
Wow.
I go, okay. And finally, he said to me, "Gregg, you will stand next to me." And basically, I was going to direct the thing. And then I will call action and cut. And that's how we made the film.
Wow.
But
Dang.
there was a guy. What happened? The crew became aware of it quickly. You know, so they treated him like he was a dumbass.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Hey, that's not cool."
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
regardless, it's his film. And I'm still going to help him do the best he can. And we were shooting at this house, that boom down scene, and I was inside the house. We were going to do an interior next, and he came inside and he was all upset. He's like, "Well, they won't let me do the boom down." And then I said, "What?" And I said, "Wait." I said, "Well, let's go outside."
Hmm.
I go, so the grip with the boom is telling the director he's not going to do that shot.
Hmm.
And I said to them and the rest of the crew, basically set everybody straight right there, that like this guy's the director. Set up the boom. We're going to do that shot. And if not, we'll get somebody else right now.
Hmm.
They did the boom shot.
Yeah.
And that guy, from that moment on, loves me. And now he is directing in Australia. And I've made 4 films with him.
Hmm.
you know
Nice.
but you got to have respect for people, unless people are abusing people.
Sure.
There's a point where you don't abuse people.
Hmm.
And I understand tensions can get high, people are under time restrictions and whatnot, but you can't abuse people.
Hmm. Yeah,
you know
absolutely.
uh, I did a film called Master and Commander with Russell Crowe, and it was a period piece. Peter Weir directed, and heavy movie to make.
Hmm.
A lot of sword fighting and muskets and whatnot. And there's a film. If you just go look at the trailer, and there's some clips on our website actually. Talk about being under pressure,
Hmm.
and especially when you do period stuff, because everything had to be. We had to go to musket school to shoot the muskets. I mean, it was all shot in Mexico. It was
Hmm.
so specific, and the outfits, the detail of the outfits, and everything. And Peter Weir never yelled at anybody, never. And that was like the highest pressure, you know. And I have to give a lot of credit to the camera operators. There must have been on the deck of that ship at times like, you know, 6 camera operators. And do you know who the Panavision on film, those
Mhm.
are heavy cameras. Do
Mhm.
you know who were operating those cameras? They were women,
Wow, good.
women operators. And let me tell you, those women kick butt, man.
Hmm.
I've never seen a camera operator. Those women would haul those cameras up a ladder, home, you know, rolling them through battle fight scenes with 300 extras. I mean, you know, with swords and everything. They were amazing, you know.
Wow.
So, yeah, you got to give everybody credit for, you know, their talent and what they do. And if you're good at what you do, it shouldn't matter if you're a man, woman, whatever, you know. It's like
Yeah.
you want great people, you
And
know.
just be kind, especially if you're the director,
Right.
like you set the tone. Just
Well,
be
you know,
aware of
when you're
that.
doing action, sometimes in big things like that, you know, the tensions can get really high.
Sure.
And there comes a moment where you just got to stop everybody and go, okay, let's all take a breather,
Hmm.
you know, do a reset, and then we'll go from there. Because things happen, you know, unplanned things happen. We were doing one of the Pirates of the Caribbean, and we're doing a big battle scene, and there was a guy up in the Ratlins fighting, and they call cut, and I see the guy up in the Ratlins hanging by his foot, and I'm like, oh, something wrong here. So
Hmm.
we went up and got the guy down. He had his appendix burst,
Whoa.
and we're out at sea. So we had
Wow.
to throw him in a Zodiac and rush him to shore and get him to a hospital. You know, so and he ended up he was okay. Thank God we got him there in time. So
Yeah.
things happen, you know, when you're doing action, but that's big action, you know.
Mhm.
Master and Commander, Russell Crowe, we had rehearsed for 3 weeks to do a sword fight scene. He comes below decks and he's sword fighting everybody.
Mhm.
And he has to step down the steps. That's what he rehearsed. He steps down the step, and 2 guys are down there, and he sword fights them and then comes down and keeps fighting.
Mhm.
And then they had cannons down below that were on wires. And as he's coming down the cannons, because the other ship's bombing us, the cannons were being blown across the room on wires. It was really dangerous, you know, and it was period. So the roof was really low. For some reason, Russell Crowe, they call action. This is what I mean about getting amped.
Mhm.
And Russell Crowe had a real sword. Others had, you know, metal swords, you know, but they weren't real. They had this big, beautiful sword that he had that was real. And he got amped. He took one step down the step to go down below, and the stunt guy reached out, and Russell went like that and put the sword right through his arm
Whoa.
and pulled it out.
Whoa.
And that guy dropped to the floor, blood everywhere. And everybody knew immediately when you heard that guy scream. It's amazing, you know, all these guys yelling in a battle. Oh, when you heard the real
The
scream,
real one. Wow.
everybody stopped.
Wow.
And Russell Crowe was great. He jumped down there like, oh my God, you know, and this the poor guy, and he Russell had on the lot his own private helicopter.
Oh, wow.
So we wrapped him up, and they rushed him from there. We were in Rosarito, rushed him to San Diego, patched him up, and that stunt guy was back on the set the next day. You know,
Damn.
and so things happen. You know, and people will say, well, things aren't supposed to happen. Well, depends the level of what you're doing. You want to make big movies. You want to make John Wick. You want to make, you know, a Michael Bay movie. Things are blowing up and things are happening.
Yeah.
You know, but that doesn't mean, you know, it's not a lot that it happens, but it can happen. You know,
It
we didn't
can.
have any control over the guy who has a burst appendix. I mean, yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Just those acts of
And,
God type of thing. Yeah.
yeah, and our job is to, you know, not just do action. Our job is to take care of everybody and keep everybody safe, you
Hmm.
know. the camera people, the director, the actors, the lighting people, wardrobe, wherever you are, anybody who's around, we're watching for everybody. That's why we have our guys with us and our safety team with us.
Mm-hmm.
I've done a bunch of these Comic Cons. We've done live events for Comic Con. I did The Last Jedi for George Lucas and them for the launch of The Last Jedi. We did in New York at the Comic Con, and there's a
Nice.
bunch of stuff on our website. You can see that stuff if you just go to stunts911.net.
Mm-hmm.
And I always tell people, look, because people look you up on your phone. You go, if you're going to look us up on the phone, that's fine. But if you want to see everything that's, the videos and the Tom Cruise stuff and all the driving and all the stuff we do, you got to go on a desktop like this because there's a lot more stuff on your desktop than the phone app,
Sure.
you know.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
if they really want to take a deep dive into what we do.
Yeah.
Um, but other than that, I mean, God, there's so many years and so many things I could tell you,
I know, I know. And another thing that I would love to dive into would be, because influencing, like having, stunts work for the story, and enhancing character and all that type of stuff. So if I were to, if I have a vertical script, and sometimes it's so basic, they'll just say they fight, there'll be
Yeah.
barely any sort of foundation, of anything. It just says they fight. So if I were
Yeah.
to come to you, and I don't really know exactly what kind of fight I want, but, I
Mhm.
just give the floor to you, so what is your kind of go-to process instead of just a fight, is there any way that you think of story and character and how that influences the fight? And
Absolutely. I would say to you, because first of all, by doing that, I would say, whoa, they really want to do something great here. This person's being smart. They're communicating with me what their story is, what
Mhm,
the scene is, what the mood is, and what they're trying to portray. So I would basically say, hey, look, whether it has to be like this by Zoom, if you don't want to send me a script or whatever, or I'm not even hired to work with you yet, you just want to talk about it so that you can rewrite that scene.
mhm,
I'd say, call me. Say, let's get on the horn. Let's talk about your film. Let's talk about your scene, and then and we can create it for you.
mhm,
We can say like, okay, the guy comes in. I'll give you an example of something simple. I was directing a thing, and the guy had to walk into the room. It was a real ominous moment, you know. But I'm directing it, so I know action. I know how to create it. And then there was going to be a fight start. So two great actors. The one guy came in, said his line. This guy came out of the dark and started talking to him. And then he walked towards him and then grabbed him and started the fight. And I said, no, 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 cut. No, no. Okay, here's what we're going to do. This is an instant band aid. This is how
mhm,
you fix it. Okay. What young directors especially forget, and they teach you this when you learn to be an actor. A good director sometimes will say, let's give him some business.
mhm,
What's your business? Okay. So I said to this guy, good, look, you're coming out and you just start the fight. It's terrible. Okay. Dialogue was good. Choreography, him getting into position for camera and everything was good. But there was no thought
mhm,
before the fight. Okay. So I said, okay, I want to give you some business. I said, he's going to say his line. You're going to come out of the dark. And there was a chest in the room. And all I did was I set a can on the chest. It was a rusted old can because it was in this old cabin. And I said, there's absolutely no reason to do what you're going to do, but you're going to do it anyways. Okay.
mhm,
So I said, I want you to come out of the dark. And when you see him, don't say anything. Okay. I want you to walk over and then I want you to notice that can standing there. And I just pick up the can and look at it. and then put it back down, then look at him and stare at him, then go over and start the fight.
Mm.
Okay. And he did that. It looked so amazing because it made the audience think that it just put something in that guy's mind. Like he knew he was going to fight the guy, but he was so calm that he took time to just look at that. That's business.
Mm.
Okay. And then he just went over and went after him. And it surprised the audience. You
Mm.
know, you don't always want to give away that, oh, there's going to be a fight,
Sure.
So if you can create business, people do things. I think one of the young directors, one of the biggest mistakes they make is what I just did. I stopped talking.
Mm.
You're watching and listening. Okay. I always say to the actors, look, don't be brave enough to allow there to be silence. Okay.
Hmm.
Don't be in such a hurry. Oh, my line's next. You
Yeah.
know. So if you pace that scene right, it makes whatever the action is. It might just be they throw something at somebody. It makes whatever that is more intense,
Yeah.
more meaningful.
Yeah, more true. What I like to tell my actors is, you're reacting in real time. You don't know the next thing that you're going to do even or say, so there is a bit of a moment there where you are processing what you just heard and what
Ah,
you're about to do. Yeah, I thought. Yeah.
we have two things we always say, and even in the beginners course, we do a little acting class for stunt people. We say, God forbid something real would happen.
Yeah.
And then the second thing they learn, and the very first thing they learn is the two things. If you know nothing about acting, is look and listen. Look
Hmm.
and listen.
Yeah.
Everything is here in the
Hmm.
eyes.
Yeah.
And they're so focused on trying to remember their lines. Now I'm becoming the acting teacher.
That's
Uh,
great.
they're so focused on their lines. I say, look, if you know the lines, when you're in the moment, if you just look at the person and listen, you'll remember your line.
Yeah.
Okay. Because if you're not comprehending you're just waiting to say your line, nothing's happening.
Yeah.
Uh, my acting coaches, and I studied Meisner and all these things when I was trying to become a big actor. And you would come out of an acting scene and you would say, "Wow, I don't even remember what I just did." That
Mm.
means you did it right.
Yeah.
If you know all your lines you did just now, and you heard yourself, you did it wrong.
Hmm.
Yeah. You should just be in it, going, doing.
Yeah.
You know,
If you do the homework, if you do the prep ahead of time, and you really absorb everything, just have the courage to just forget it, and truly live in that
and be
moment.
it.
Yeah, and be it. Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I don't like. I never liked the term acting.
Mm.
I always wanted being.
Mm.
You know, just be. You know,
Yeah.
and yeah, just and be. Allow yourself to have the freedom to go where you want to go with it. Because we can always do another take.
Hmm.
And I had a guy who was just directing in a scene, and I had what I wanted specifically, and he did a great job. We did it twice, and I'll do this a lot when I direct. And I said, "Okay, we've got it." And I said, "Okay, now we're going to do it again." And you know your character, you know the lines, whatever. I said, "But I want you to just do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Just go crazy with it."
Hmm.
And that was the shot we used.
I love them. It provides opportunities for gifts. I call them gifts, just the spontaneous ideas that the actors want to give to you, and
Yes.
they elevate the
And
project.
he
Yeah.
he came up with some dialogue. I just went, "Oh yeah, we're using that."
It's perfect. Yeah.
And that was what we used. What was it was the end of the scene, and then he just said, "This is your circus, so let's get the party started." And I went out of nowhere, and I went,
Nice.
"We're using that."
You're like, I couldn't even write that better. It was
Yeah,
perfect. Yeah.
yeah.
Cool.
So, collaboration is allowing brilliant people to collaborate. And sometimes, look, you and I know, sometimes people just come up with stupid stuff,
Sure. Yeah. But
or they're trying to get more screen time for themselves or something. And you have to in a nice way kind of, I'll tilt my hat down and go, that's a good idea. But, let's work around it a little bit.
sure.
With, you got to get away from it without insulting them, like,
Sure. Yeah, because it's never personal. We have an awareness of the bigger picture, and sometimes, if it will get an idea and it instantly clicks and we know it does, and sometimes we know it won't. So,
or you say, look, that's interesting, but maybe we could do that somewhere in another scene. Big actors are great. I've worked with Robert De Niro, Sean Penn, like they're great, because
cool,
they
cool.
got nothing to prove. They know their
Sure.
stuff. They're
Yeah.
incredible. Um, and they're a joy to work with
Hmm.
because when you think they're gonna blow up or do something, they don't, you know. I did an old film with Bruce Willis called Last Man Standing. And it was a period piece, all mob guys, and there's a big shootout uh, in a pivotal scene. And actually, the part of the scene is on my website. If you go to look about me at the bottom, there's a video, you'll see it. And there's all of us guys like back in the 40s, all dressed in fedoras and stuff, having a turkey dinner. And Bruce Willis comes in and shoots everybody.
Hmm.
And I'm the last guy to get shot. Sitting in a chair at the dining table, and they put a ratchet wire on me through the chair, and he shoots me and blows me up into the wall, and I fall down. And every guy in that room, they rigged that whole room, had to fall somewhere where they got shot. And it was supposed to be like a Thanksgiving dinner.
Hmm.
And some guys got the worst. Like one guy, he had to fall in a bowl of mashed potatoes. One guy fell over the turkey. One guy, but it was a massacre of the Italian mob, you know. And it took them like 3 weeks to rig that room with
Hmm.
squibs, and we all had squibs. I had double guns, and we're shooting real full loads at Bruce Willis. And I'll show you how an actor steps up and is a big shot. We all get shot, and wherever you landed, for all the pickup shots of the other actors who come in and see the massacre, you have to lay in that position.
Hmm.
Well, when I came out of the chair, I landed on top of the chair and was crushed over the chair, bleeding, and that's where I had to stay.
Hmm.
And so the next day, you had to come back in and be in that position. So, and then Christopher Walken was going to come in. He was the mob boss and see what he did to his guys, right?
Hmm.
Well, I'm laying over the chair. Well, one of the guys, when he got shot, one of the stunt guys, he rolled off the table and landed under the table. So he was just laying under the table. He was the most comfortable guy laying at the table.
Yeah.
Well, it was taking so long for the scene. He fell asleep,
Oh, shoot.
right? So I'm right here, and Christopher Walken comes in, stands right next to me, and he's doing his monologue saying, man, look at these guys. Who did this? And he's going through this whole monologue. And I hear the guy underneath me. All of a sudden, I hear,
Just him snoring.
and I'm like, I'm supposed to be dead. And I'm thinking, oh, no, no, no.
Oh, man.
He's going to think it's me.
Yeah.
So I had my hand hanging over the chair and I'm trying to hit the guy's
And you're
shoe,
pointing, you're pointing at him. Yeah.
trying to hit his shoe to wake him up, you know? And Christopher Walken keeps doing the monologue. And he's like, we got to find out, and he's just going on. And all of a sudden the snoring gets louder. And I'm like
Oh,
going,
man.
oh no, no, you know. And finally Christopher Walken stops and he goes, uh, and I, he goes, God, am I that boring? And all the dead bodies got up and he was still asleep. I woke him up and he goes, what?
Wow.
I go, yeah, you're snoring, man.
Oh, man. Poor
But
guy.
he was cool enough about it.
Sure. Yeah.
He didn't
Yeah.
go, oh, what the heck, throw a fit like
Exactly.
some young actor. He was like,
Yeah.
am I that boring, guys? I put you to sleep,
Oh, how
So,
cool.
sometimes you have funny things happen. Um, and because filmmaking in general, there's a lot of hurry up and wait.
Yeah.
You know, uh, we were doing when we did Master and Commander, and when you're dealing with big, ensemble casts like that, on the deck of that ship, there's a pivotal scene where we're the French and we're all laying on the deck of the ship. And when the British come on board Russell Crowe, they think they beat us, we're all dead. And then the captain of our ship, all of a sudden, when they get on board, he yells out to everybody, Asheron, and they all get up and we all charge him. Okay. And I had to lead the charge. And I had a black powder gun and the bayonet on it. And there were barrels, and you're going through the ship and all this stuff. And we had they had got a bunch of the local Mexican kids to be extras, and they laid them down next to the barrels and stuff as guys that were shot and whatever. But we had to go through them. We had 300 extras on that thing, and
Dang.
I'm leading the charge. And the coordinator goes, Gregg, just go up, charge Russell Crowe. He goes, don't stab him. He goes, don't stab Russell Crowe.
Yeah.
And he goes, just charge him, and he's going to shoot you with a black powder pistol, and then you just fall. And then the
Easy enough.
battle,
Sounds
okay?
easy. Yeah.
And then the battle starts, and everybody's fighting, okay? I'm like, got it. Well, I see this little Mexican kid next to one of the barrels, right next to where I have to go by, and he's got his legs sticking out. And
Uh,
I went over to him and pushed his legs in, and I said, he didn't speak English. I said, I was saying, stay, keep your legs in.
mhm.
Right? So they call action, and we're charging, man. Guys are getting ready to shoot, and I go to Russell Crowe, and I just get to him, and this little Mexican kid sticks his legs out, and I trip on him.
Oh shit.
And I got the bayonet right at Russell
Oof.
Crowe, and I go. All was going through my head was, "Don't stab Russell Crowe! Don't stab Russell Crowe!"
Yeah. Yeah.
And I went like this, oh, like that, and fell
Oh man.
down. And they were on bullhorns because it was so loud with extras and everything that to stop it, God, 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 you know. And
Wow.
they go, cut. And I didn't even want to look up, you
Sure.
know. And I look up, and there's Russell Crowe standing over me, and he takes the gun and he goes,
Bang.
and he shoots me. And he goes, mate, that's the funniest thing I've ever seen.
That's hilarious.
And we had to do it again, So he set everybody back up, no pressure. So he
Yeah.
had to set everything up, and the coordinator comes over to me and he goes, "Hey, Gregg, this time, don't trip, And I go, I didn't trip. The guy said it took
A
his whole
freaking kid,
feet
damn
out,
it.
He was
Man,
just giving me a go.
what's the
And
most amount of people that you've had to choreograph? Because I mean, you were
oh
leading that
God.
true, but like, I can't even imagine a group of like 300 people and you're telling, at least each person what to do, you
Well,
know?
what they do in that case is because we had like the stunt team was 60 guys, and then the rest they hired these extras. They hired a bunch of Mexican kids, and we were playing all of Rosarito
Yeah.
because they Fox had a studio down there, Fox Baja,
Mhm.
which they no longer have. So we get someone, a swordsman master who came in, and he choreographed the extras, and then the stunt team was choreographed by us,
I
who
see.
did everything with the big actors. Um, and then you have certain cues for them, certain cues for us. But they're not trained. Things go wrong sometimes. These guys were, you're piled up getting shot, and they were dropping metal axes on us and stuff. And
Mm.
I'm like, oh my God,
Yeah.
it's
Damn.
like a football pile up.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, but you get it choreographed, and plus there's explosions going off, and I think we didn't get any major injuries on that film. At the end of the film, though, because I'm in the lead in every battle, I was the lead. I got one cracked rib,
Mm.
uh, and I still finished the film with a cracked rib.
Yeah, damn.
Um,
Yeah. You guys
but
are like
and then
expected to in that sense, huh? Like you guys are just
yeah,
power through it.
you power through. I had some of my guys, I go, somebody grab some duct tape out of your bag, and I go, just wrap my ribs
Just
with
wrap
that
it up.
duct.
Yay,
That's how I finished the film.
that could work.
But when you do live, it's different,
Hmm.
very different. I really like live because
Sure.
uh, I did the Lincoln Center in New York. I did you know what the upfronts are?
Mm-mm. No.
Well, every studio, every network, they have once a year, they have what they call the upfronts. And what they do, they hold a huge event for their executives. And they come in and the distributors from all over the world and they show clips and scenes from all of their movies that are
Hmm.
coming up for the
Nice.
year. It's called the upfronts. So they called me to do the upfronts for Turner Network Television, TNT one year. And they said, can you design an opener live on stage at the Lincoln Center? We want to do. We're going to have 600 of Turner Network's executives were flying in from all over the world.
Yikes.
Now, there's some pressure.
Yeah.
Okay. So it took me, but I got it early and we got to prep it and plan it and design it. I got to do it 3 months in advance. And when we got there, so I put 22 stunt people on stage, and you had 5 minutes to show everything that they were going to show in their movies and TV that was coming up. So he goes, we want it to be all, action movie TV. And I had 22 stunt people. I had motorcycles jumping on stage. I had a SWAT team come out of the ceiling.
Wow.
I had two guys on fire coming across stage. We did it all in 5 minutes, all this stuff. And then I had a team of football players because there were snipers that came out in the audience with red laser lights on the audience. And after the fight, those guys got knocked down and beat up and killed. So they said, how are we going to clear the stage? And I said, I'm going to have a football team come from the back of the arena and come down, and they're going to grab these bodies and put them on their shoulders and carry them off the stage. And that's what they did. And then to introduce the head of Turner, I brought in a flying rig and we flew him over the crowd
Oh,
and,
wow.
and landed him down on the stage so he could start the show. And I had two guys dressed as men in black who were stunt guys, safety guys with him.
Yeah.
And what I had him do was I had him fly in with those guys. And then there was another executive we flew in, and he flew down with one of the guys that repelled out of the bad guys that repelled out of the ceiling. He had him with him, and when he flew down to the stage, he threw him on the stage,
Hmm.
and then the executive beat him up and he got him out of there.
Oh,
We
how
did all
fun.
that in 5 minutes,
Oh, how awesome.
and so live is different, because once it starts,
Yeah,
there's no second take.
sure. And I mean, the amount of rehearsal time, I'm sure, you've had
Yeah.
to block all that out and rehearse it to the T.
Yeah, we had a rehearsal warehouse in Brooklyn for a week when we got there before the event. Uh, and we rehearsed everything there. And then, luckily everything went off great.
Yeah, it
And,
went great. Oh,
uh,
that's great.
so there's a lot of different aspects to doing live and, shooting what we do.
Yeah, absolutely.
But what do
Well,
you think as far as, I know you guys are in the process of prepping some stuff you want to do or developing it.
mhm,
What do you see as a stumbling block, an obstacle for you as a
sure.
director or producer? Yeah.
Well, I mean, in this space currently, just working in verticals, just the limited, you know, what we're able to achieve, like you've seen, it's very basic. We don't have the time. There's a vertical that's going to be coming out soon that I think it's called the Game of Choice. Um, and I think they did a lot of stunts, a lot of wire work in that one. I haven't personally done any wire work yet of, any characters flying or anything. Um, but yeah, hopefully soon I'll have those opportunities.
Yeah, you want to, get someone on a wire, pull them through the air, pull them into a wall, pull. you'll see some of that stuff on my website, and you look
Yeah.
through the videos, you'll see, the type of things we can do. We can pretty much do anything you can imagine.
Yeah, yeah.
You
Well, I mean,
just,
Greg, yeah, I mean, I just want to, I thank you, of course, for taking the time to meet up with me today. And I do want, please like give everybody, one last thing of like how they could reach out to you, everything that you offer, on your website, everything.
yeah, just go to our website at stunts 91 STUNTS and then the numbers 911.net and call us. The phone number's there, the email's there. We're
Yeah,
happy to get on and talk with you. And it doesn't cost you anything to talk. And
absolutely.
I'm looking forward to working with you.
Yeah, same.
And I'm going to send you. You got to text me too. Make sure I have your address. I'm going to send you a copy of my. I have a little book that I give away to my students
Oh,
about
cool.
staying motivated, and I'm going to send you a copy.
Oh, great. And there it is too.
It's
Action,
called
not
Action Not
words.
Words.
That's a big one.
That's me in that flyer, and
That's badass. How cool.
I'll send you a copy.
Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be
Give them
amazing.
away when I do speaking engagements and whatnot.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
it's all about really people being motivated.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
What a great title too, Action Not Words, because it's meaningful, in more ways than one, especially for a stunt coordinator. So,
yeah, well, hey, I look forward to working with you and anybody else out there who has questions or
yeah,
have the dream to do something. Like I said, don't hesitate to call us
yeah,
and and we'll talk soon, man.
absolutely. And so just one last thing that you want to share with, directors specifically, in terms of reaching out to you, what they should, questions they should have, any questions at all, just anything that you want to share with them.
I would say if you have a great project, then obviously if you're calling us, you think you have a great project. If you're worried about, people don't want to send a script, they don't want to do that, you can always just, call us first, have a chat, and then I would probably say to you, send us a synopsis of what your story is, and then let's get on the phone or a Zoom like this and talk about it, and we'll help create what you want. But don't be afraid to talk to us. That's the biggest mistake I think people make.
Hmm.
Uh, and let us know what you're trying to create. You tell us, if you have limitations. One of the big things is don't be afraid to tell us, because everybody's like, oh, we don't want to tell them that we don't have much money. It's like, that's not how we start.
Hmm.
We start by saying, what do you want to create? And we can talk about what your budget is later. And then let's figure out how we can create it no matter what your budget is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Don't have that fear that, like, don't lose out on getting what we have to give you.
Mhm.
Let that limit you before you've even started.
Yeah, that's a
So
big
happy.
thing that I remind myself of, instead of just assuming that it's a no,
Yeah,
because you're
don't do
giving
that.
yourself a no by not reaching out, just at least try reaching out and seeing what can make
Yeah,
it
and it
happen.
doesn't cost you anything to call and talk with us.
Yeah, yeah,
So
absolutely.
let's make your vision happen, man. I mean,
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I feel like this was a great, maybe part one of an episode. Maybe we'll get some other questions from directors after this episode comes out, and I'll have you back on, and we'll
yeah,
see.
absolutely, anytime.
Yeah,
And I'm looking forward to we'll catch up and talk about some other things and with what you're doing, and we'll make that happen too. So
yeah, definitely, definitely. Well, I'll end the recording, and then I have some other questions for you before we go. But everybody, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Film Directing with Matt Macedo. And this was with Gregg Sargeant, stunt coordinator, actor, director, many, many hats that he wears.
well, thanks for having me.
For sure, for sure. And definitely check out his website, the Stunt Academy, everything that you have. What was your website again? Stunts.
Stunts STUNTS, then the numbers 911.net. Stunts911.net.
And then friendly reminder to look at it on a desktop computer because you'll see a lot more good stuff. I mean, you could watch it, you could look at it on your mobile phone as well, but like
Yeah.
you said, if you see it on your desktop computer, you'll see a lot more on
And if
there.
they want to see anything about the stunt training for beginners, just go to stuntuniversity.com.
Stuntuniversity.com. Great name also for it. Alrighty, cool, everybody. Well, thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.